we've learned a little bit about the case going on with Tom Robinson, a black man who is accused of raping Bob Yule's daughter. And now we're going to get a little more information about how the town is reacting to all of this. So here is Chapter 15 of To Kill a Mockingbird. After many telephone calls, much pleading on behalf of the defendant, and a long forgiving letter from his mother, it was decided that Dill could stay. So Dill kind of snuck away and decided he was going to stay with Scout and Jem. We had a long week of peace together. After that, little, it seemed. A nightmare was upon us. So Mr. Hecate says, "They're moving Tom to the county jail, Mr. Finch. I don't look for any trouble, but I can't guarantee there won't be any." Atticus says, "Don't be foolish, Heck. This is Maycomb. Nobody round here's up to anything. It's that old Sarum bunch I'm worried about." "You're not scared of that crowd, are you, Link? Know how they do when they get shinied up. They don't usually drink on Sunday. They go to church most of the day. This is a special occasion, though. Don't see why you touched this case in the first place. You've got everything to lose from this, Atticus. I mean, everything. Link, that boy might go to the chair, but he's not going till the truth's told, and you know what the truth is." And when he says go to the chair, back in the time of To Kill a Mockingbird, a lot of people would be sentenced to go to the electric chair, which is a chair that would essentially kill them. So they're saying that Tom might go to the electric chair, but he's not going to go there until the truth is told. And Atticus is saying, you know what the truth is. "They were after you, weren't they?" Jem said. "No, son, those were our friends." And Jem says, "It wasn't a gang?" And Atticus says, "No, we don't have mobs and that nonsense in Maycomb." Jem says, "Ku Klux got after some Catholics one time." Atticus said, "Never heard of any Catholics in Maycomb either. The Ku Klux is gone. It'll never come back." So now Jem and Scout are in their room. Jem says, "Scout, I'm scared." Scout says, "Scared of what?" Jem says, "Scared about Atticus. Somebody might hurt him." Atticus comes in and says, "I'm going out for a while. You folks will be in bed when I come back, so I'll say goodnight now." Jem asks, "Why?" Atticus says, "They're moving Tom to the Maycomb jail now. If they'd done so in the first place, there wouldn't have been any fuss at all. Good night." So they watch Atticus leave, and Jem says, "He's taken the car." And Scout thinks, "Our father had a few peculiarities. One was he never ate desserts. Another was that he liked to walk." So they think it's odd that he's taking the car instead of walking like he normally would. Scout asks, "What are you doing?" Jem says, "I'm going downtown for a while." Scout says, "Why? It's late, Jem." Jem says, "I know it, but I'm going anyway." Scout says, "Then I'm going with you. If you say no, you're not, I'm going anyway. Here?" And Jem's like, "Fine, fine." Now Scout says, "Dill'll want to come." And Jem's like, "Yep, I guess he will." So they get Dill's attention. He peeks out the window. And he comes out and he says, "What's up?" Scout says, "Jem's got the look-arounds," as in he's getting curious and wants to take a look at what's going on. So this was an affliction Calpurnia said all boys caught at his age. Jem says, "I've just got this feeling. Just this feeling." And you can see they're walking around town trying to find Atticus. And Jem says, "Don't go to him. He might not like it. He's all right. Let's go home. I just wanted to see where he was." And then all of a sudden these cars start pulling up. You can see Atticus is sitting in front of the jail just reading with his little light that he brought. So one of the men gets out of the car and says, "He in there, Mr. Finch?" And Atticus replies, "He is, and he's asleep. Don't wake him up." One of the men from the mob says, "You know what we want. Get aside from the door, Mr. Finch." So Atticus replies, "You can turn around and go home again, Walter. Hecate's around somewhere." Hecate's the police officer. And one of the mob people replies, "There he is. Or the hell he is. Heck's bunches so deep in the woods they won't get out till morning." And Atticus says, "Indeed? Why so?" They said, "Called him off on a snipe hunt. Didn't you think of that, Mr. Finch?" Atticus said, "Thought about it, but didn't believe it." So they're saying Hectate's not around. He's off on a hunting trip. Atticus says, well, then that changes things, doesn't it? And Mr. Walter says, it do. So then Scout yells, Atticus, and runs into the middle of the mob. Hey, Atticus. And Atticus says, go home, Jem. Take Scout and Dill home. Go home, I said Atticus. One of the people in the mob says, I'll send him home, and goes to grab Jem. And Scout, being the little spitfire she is, kicks him, yelling, don't you touch him. And Atticus says, that'll do, Scout. Scout says, ain't nobody gonna do Jem that way. All right, Mr. Finch, get him out of here. You got 15 seconds to get him. And then Scout interrupts, hey, Mr. Cunningham. Hey, Mr. Cunningham, how's your entailment getting along? Don't you remember me, Mr. Cunningham? I'm Jean Louise Finch. You brought us some hickory nuts one time, remember? To pay Atticus. I go to school with Walter. He's your boy, ain't he? Ain't he, sir? And he kind of mm-hms. He's a good boy. A real nice boy. We brought him home for dinner one time. I beat him up one time for starting me off on the wrong foot, but he was real nice about it. Tell him hey for me, won't you? And they just kind of stand there awkwardly for a moment. And Scout's like, what's the matter? What did I do? And then Mr. Cunningham kind of softens and he says, I'll tell him you said hey, little lady. And he says, let's clear out. Let's get going, boys. You can see they start leaving, and Atticus is like wiping his head in relief. And then Tom from inside the jail says, they gone, Mr. Finch? And Atticus says, they've gone. Get some sleep, Tom. They won't bother you anymore. And that's the end of chapter 15.